Today's episode feels extra special because I get to sit down with not just a guest, but a dear friend of mine, Anna McParlan. Fun fact, we actually share the same birthday, so clearly God knew we'd be linked from the start. What I love about Anna is that her story is such a beautiful mix of real life, the heartbreak, the healing, the chaos of motherhood, the calling of adoption, and the ache of church hurt, all held together by God's steady faithfulness. We both walked through seasons where people failed us, but Jesus never did. And that's really what today's conversation is about. So grab a cup of coffee and join us because this is two friends getting honest about life, faith, and the God who shows up in it all. Hey friend, I'm Jessica, and this is With My Whole Heart. I'm a real-life woman juggling a lot of real-life things, raising girls, running a hair salon, chasing big dreams, and doing my best to stay grounded through it all. If you've ever found yourself in the thick of it, somewhere between who you've been and who you're becoming, this space is for you. Here, we talk about the middle, the messy, meaningful, beautiful middle. The big leaps, the small wins, the hard lessons, and the heart-led pivots. From business and beauty to faith, motherhood, and everything in between, nothing's off limits. So grab your coffee or your tea, get cozy, and let's dive in. Because this journey, we're walking it together with our whole hearts. All right. Hey, Anna.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited to have you. So we're going to dive right into it. So let's start at the beginning. You grew up in a church as one of 5 kids, and early on, your dad's brain cancer diagnosis became such a big part of your story. What do you remember about God meeting you in those really young years?
Yeah, so I was like 4 years old. My dad was first diagnosed with brain cancer. And it's crazy because it feels like, when you turn on a TV and it's like kind of staticky, but then like the color pops in and out. Like these are old school TVs, right? Not anything we have today.
Kids don't know what we're talking about.
But yes. This is showing my age, right? But but what I remember is just like the way that we experience God's goodness through community and through people. So that was a time where like people just like had to show up. I mean, we had no choice, but especially looking at my mom who had these 3 little kids and, the love of her life, and her husband is recently diagnosed with this really scary thing. And she had no choice but to just like accept help and community. And so I specifically remember this amazing night where their friends hosted this hat party because my dad was going to lose his full head of this curly black hair. And so everyone brought a different hat. And it was like such a scary time of our life. And yet like this like burden was lifted by just like people carrying us. And there was laughter, and there was like silly hats and like hats he would wear to cover his head after his surgery. But it was just kind of this sweet impression I have, and kind of probably one of those memories that marked like what community meant to me and how people show up.
That's beautiful. And how old were you, did you say?
I was 4.
You were 4 with his first diagnosis.
The first diagnosis, yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize you were that young.
Yeah, I mean, he battled for 17 years. So it was a journey spanning a lot of seasons.
5 kiddos in your family, and you are child number
2.
Number 2. So you're one of the older ones.
One of the older ones, yeah. Okay. So there was Chris, my older brother, and then my younger brother, Dan, at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you've talked about Jonah. I want to talk about your baby brother.
The baby,
The baby of the family, Jonah, your youngest brother, being an anchor for your family. How did God use him to shape your perspective on people being created in God's image?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, my youngest brother, Jonah, has Down syndrome, and this was also kind of like one of those pivotal moments in our family story. When he was born, we didn't know prior to his birth that he had Down syndrome, and I was 10 at the time, and I remember my parents sharing with me that the doctors came into the room and they said, like, I'm so sorry, but your son is a mongoloid. And that is like a word
mongoloid?
Yeah, it is a very outdated, very offensive term. Ugh. And the doctor said to my mom, like, I don't know if you want to keep him or not. And she's like, the only person I don't want to keep is you as my doctor. You need to leave the room, exit immediately. Like her mama bear fierceness came out. And, a lot of people know Jonah because he's like a just a giant
The whole
light.
community knows Jonah.
Yeah, he's
Jonah's
incredible.
amazing.
He's absolutely
Yes.
incredible. And he, like, I think as, you know, you become protective of the people that you love. And so I started kind of seeing the world through how people were viewing him. And obviously I loved him so dearly. And so I became, you know, this protective older sister. And I just began to see like that God doesn't make mistakes. Like Jonah was created on purpose for a purpose. And like spanning our story, which we'll talk more about today, we've gone through like a lot of heartache, and Jonah has been like truly this like steady joy in our family's life. And like, I can't imagine walking through what we've walked through without him.
Right.
And I mean, like just the other day, I brought him to Starbucks. And he's like worshiping his heart out on the way to Starbucks. We get there, he has his drink, and he's like, "This is the best day ever." And it's like a Tuesday and it's raining. And like, he is literally so full of joy. I'm like, I want a heart like that, a heart that like finds wonder in the smallest of things. And that's who he's been since he was born. And he's like defeated literally every odd, everything they said he would not be able to do. He has done and done it tenfold. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
No, I love Jonah.
He's fabulous.
He's an amazing man. Okay. By your senior year of high school, your dad's cancer came back again. So is this the second time, correct?
This is the second time, yeah.
Okay. And then the stroke changed everything. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Actually, hold that thought. It is the third time. So he had it removed one time prior to that. I think my like freshman year of high school. Okay. And then the third time it came back my senior year.
Okay. So this is the third time. So he had to fight it 3 times.
3 separate times, yeah.
My gosh, all through your childhood.
Yeah. So it's kind of always just like that thing. Like I remember feeling like I just want to be a normal family. And yet there's this like steady thread that is always constantly woven into our story. Like, what is it going to look like if he goes to the doctor? You know, there's just that like thing that was always hanging over us. So yes, my senior year, it came back for the third time.
Wow. Yeah. Cause it's like he probably constantly had to go get checkups.
Yeah.
Because it's like because it kind of restarts, I'm assuming. Like once you have it, then it's like now you're going back getting checked up all the time until so much time passes.
Yeah. And I mean, when he was first diagnosed, they kind of thought like maybe this is a fluke and maybe it's fully encapsulated. And so we'll remove it and it won't be a thing. But, you know, anytime you're dealing with brain cancer, that's not, it's always just kind of hanging over your head as like, this is always a part of your story.
Right. Wild. Ugh. Okay. So can you take us into what that season felt like for you and your family?
Yeah. So my dad went back for the third time, and after actually his second time having it removed, he like biked 60 miles. It was like 3 days after. So he like got it removed, and he just was like, I mean, my dad was this larger than life man who did everything like over the top. And so the second time he had it removed and he's just like back biking. So we're thinking like, oh yeah, you know, like life will go on.
Back to biking immediately after the surgery?
Like 3 days later.
After his brain surgery?
Yes, after the second time.
All right.
So we're thinking like, yeah, this is going to be hard, but also, you know, like he's done this. He's, you know, was biking and traveling weeks after the last one. And so we went down to the cities and, you know, on the way out from surgery, and these are complications that can happen when you're dealing with something like this, they nicked an artery. And so he came out of surgery paralyzed, unable to speak, unable to walk or move. And like I remember walking into that room, and it was like the world as we knew it shifted forever. You know, you
just knew it.
We knew it. And I mean, I just remember the look in his eyes of like he had so much to say because he's this protective dad, and yet he's watching us and he can't get any of the words out.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I remember this one moment where he was in rehab and they gave him this like chart that he could point to, and like, what, you know, Patrick, what do you want? And like brush your teeth would be like a little picture, or like brush my hair was picture, you know, all these different things. And so he was getting so frustrated because he couldn't tell me what he wanted. And he's like looking for the picture and he can't find it. And he's like so upset. And then he finally like grabs my hand and he like pulls down these fingers. And I was like, you love me? That's what you want to tell me, is that you love me? And like, we both began to just weep because it was something that you just take for granted so often, is being able to express your love for someone. And that's all he wanted, was to just like say that he loved me. And so that time was like it was so heavy, and there was a lot of unknowns. And during that time, one of his best friends, who's a therapist, came to the rehab unit, and he, sat down next to my dad, and we're all there, and he says, Patrick, like, they've given you a terminal diagnosis. You can't walk. You can't talk. Like, what are you going to do? And my dad grabbed this whiteboard, and he, his one hand that he usually wrote with didn't work. So he grabbed the other hand and shakily wrote, "I choose joy." And he turned it around. And that was like the anthem that was going to be spoken over our family from here on out, was that we were going to choose joy. Like, he really believed that, like, we were standing on the firm foundation that was Jesus, and that our hope was not in any of our circumstances. Our hope was not in whether he lived or he died. His hope was in Jesus and in heaven. And so he could say that in confidence, not saying like, I choose joy and everything's going to be hunky-dory from here on out. Like,
it's not the way it works.
It's not like that. Like, I was like changing my dad's bedpan. Like, it wasn't all like we were just skipping over the hard. It was that in the middle of the hard, we had a hope. And that allowed us to like look at our situation and look at our story through eyes that were different, through eyes that were like trying to find the way heaven was breaking through in the middle of the mess.
Yeah. Wow. And so obviously, yes, like bringing up the choosing joy, it is a choice.
Yeah.
Right? I do feel like it's within us, but we have to choose it. We have to pull it out even in the hard times.
Yeah.
And for somebody who is going through literal hell, not being able to speak and still making that conscious decision of like, and lifting his whole, I can't even, like lifting his whole family up.
Yeah, I mean,
that's wild.
It was wild
and beautiful.
Yeah, and watching that like confidence, and that was a confidence that he had built in like the hidden places of his life. Like I remember going down to my dad's office when I was little, and he would be up in the night reading his Bible and worshiping. And now to think about the fact that like that prepared him for what he was going to go through. Like he knew who God was.
Right.
He knew his goodness and his faithfulness. He grew up, and his dad was like a abusive alcoholic, and he found like God's redemption and his faithfulness, and he knew it like down to his core. And that prepared him for, as he walked into this season of hardship, that he could say, no, I've been through hell and back, and I know that God is still faithful, and that he's going to be there for my family. He's going to be there for my kids. And as a mom now, like how that hits different, thinking about like how we just want to protect our kids, and we want to insulate them, and we want things to be as, easy as possible for them. And he was like, no, like I know that God's going to be good, and that we're even going to find joy in the middle of
this
heartache.
Time. Yeah. Whichever direction it goes.
Yeah.
That is an amazing testimony, truly. Was your dad always, I mean, it kind of sounds like he was always like that.
Yeah, he was.
Did it grow as hardships kept coming?
I think he had a really difficult childhood and a kind of story. And he actually met Jesus through that therapist. He was his young life leader in high school. His parents both died when he was young, and then he like met Jesus at this young life camp. And so once he like put his whole like world in with Jesus, like everything changed. Game changer. And he really like, he was super confident guy, and he like walked in the fullness of that confidence. And so it was always funny. We would go to the Y, and I remember being a kid being like, where is my dad? Like, where is he? Like, he's not out of the sauna yet. And, later he would come up and be like, oh, I was talking to some guy about Jesus. I'm like, you're nuts. You're crazy.
You're like, Dad, come on. We've been waiting.
I just want to go home and eat dinner. But yeah, so that's just kind of who he was. But I mean, I think as he faced those trials, his confidence just continued. And I mean, there was times that I think he was scared too, but he like just had decided that he was going to put his full faith and trust in the person of Jesus and in the hope of heaven.
Yeah. Wow. So I love how you describe that your dad leading with joy even in suffering. What did his faith teach you about holding on to God when everything else feels shaky?
Yeah. I mean, it taught me that I could do it. It taught me that that it was real, that it wasn't just like this fluff or this like thing that you can slap on a pillow and make yourself feel better. So I saw like the trueness of it in the trenches. And I mean, and then that gave me like, I'm like, wait, this is a God that I actually want to worship and I want to serve with my life. I watched the way that he showed up for my dad, which spilled over to me, even as a kid or as a teenager. I mean, at the time that all this was starting to kind of happen, I was 17 and 18 years old. And that's like a pivotal time of your life. You're already searching, already wondering, and to experience that hope and to have something that you could cling to, even as everything else was like completely getting rocked by the waves.
Yeah.
As someone who's like wrestled with anxiety and panic attacks, we might talk about later, like having that thing I could cling to, that like anchor that I could hold on to, really changed everything for me.
It's just like a solid ground to stand on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So grief shifted so much for you, even your plans for college, your engagement, your sense of direction. Talk about that first, and then I want to know, how did you wrestle with God in that season? Because I can't imagine it, like you said, it's not just all hunky-dory.
Yeah.
Like there's anger, there's resentment, there's so many different layers of grief. So talk a little bit. So your dad passed away.
Yeah. So before he passed away, I was supposed to leave for college, and I decided to, put all that on hold and stay in Duluth to be with my family, which ended up being an incredible decision. But at the time, you're watching your friends off at college and creating these new lives, and kind of felt like you're missing out. And so there was a lot going on there. And then I think something I really struggled with in that time was I was actually at a women's retreat, and maybe you're at this same one, but a woman shared a story about her praying for a woman with brain cancer, and then them like showing the scans of it and her being like completely healed. And everyone's like cheering and clapping and so excited. And here I am like fuming at God. Like I'm like, this is what at the time where they're like, there's absolutely nothing else we can do. And I had spent so many evenings like rubbing my dad's arm and like praying over him and praying for God to heal him, and thinking about the story of the woman who just has to touch like the end of his cloak, and then, and she's healed. And I'm like, I just want to be that. Like, I just want like, and, I wrestled a lot with like, what does it mean to like have enough faith? And what does it mean for heaven to break through sometimes and people to get healed and other times not? And so that time was a lot of wrestling with God. And I remember one of my mentors saying to me, she said, like, because at times I thought like, maybe I'm not a great Christian because I have so many questions and I have some anger at God for this. And she said, wrestling with God is the most intimate place that you can be.
Absolutely.
And when I think about my sons now who wrestle, right? And they're intertwined, they're tangled, their faces are like pushed up against each other.
There's
chokeholds. Yeah. And so to think about being like that with God and intimately being like face to face, and he can see all of your junk. He can see all of your fear. He can see all of it. It's all on display, and you're like up close and personal with him. And that was really, that brought me so much freedom, that conversation with this woman, for her to be like, that's actually not a sign, like, that's not a threat to your faith. That's going to be like the biggest tool in your tool belt to get you through this season. And so it was a lot of wrestling. And in January of 2012, he went home to be with Jesus, and we had this one last sweet New Year's Eve. He kissed my mom goodnight, and he went into like kind of into a coma for a couple of days, and we had this sweet time of worship, and and that's kind of set us off into the next season, which was also kind of a little bit of a chaos.
Yeah. So, you also, your engagement, where does that fall into all of this?
Yes. So we had gotten engaged prior, and a funny story about that too is, David and I had just started dating when my dad's stroke happened. I mean, I think it had been like a month or two.
This is your high school sweetheart.
He was my high school crush.
High school
He didn't know who I was at the time. I knew who he was. But we ended up meeting, this is post-high school. So I was waitressing at Little Angie's. He came in, and I was one of the ladies who was training me and was like, you have to introduce yourself. Like, this is your one shot. And so I did. And then we went out for coffee and, have been together kind of ever since. So we got engaged, but our world was like totally turned upside down.
Yeah.
And so like I have a lot of grace for that girl now, because looking back at the time, like I'm like, he was always the one, but I just was like confused and in a million, my head was in a million and one places. And so he was driving down at the time though, like every other day he would drive down to the cities to be with my family. And he like hardly knew us at the time. Like it was crazy. And so we're sitting down with my dad in the rehab room, and he also picks up a whiteboard and he says, when are you going to ask her to marry you? And he turns it around to David.
Stop.
And like, this is like high pressure, like we don't even dating like 3 months.
Yeah. And here he is, your dad, who just had a stroke.
Yeah.
And is battling cancer. What is he supposed to say?
Yeah, exactly. Like he could have just ran out of the room at that point, and I would have understood.
Come
on. But it was a testament to like David's character, who's my husband. Like he just showed up to serve us and to serve me, like really before he even knew us. Yeah. And my dad saw that, and my dad like prayed for me. I mean, I remember hundreds of times that I would find him like praying for me, and he would write me these prayers and tuck them under my door. And he was always praying for this man. And so then for him to recognize that and see that in him. He knew. Mm-hmm. It was going to take me a little while longer till like my brain and everything caught up. But so when my dad died, he was the one that picked me up from the house. And then we've been together like ever since that time. But he was still there and still an integral part. And he had 100% had my dad's blessing.
Oh yeah. That's so beautiful. And so you guys were dating. You had just kind of met then before his last surgery where he had the stroke?
Yes. And then it was 2 years from that point until he passed away, or 2.5 years. Yes.
So he lived for 2.5 years past that third surgery.
Yes. And it was wild. Like he strapped his hand with duct tape and his foot to a biked around Lake Superior with my uncle. What? We found this video of like a GoPro camera, and he's going through the tunnels in Silver Bay. If you've been up the North Shore, you know what I'm talking about. Uh-huh. And he pulls the GoPro off with the one hand that works. One good hand. Yeah. And I mean, he's on a tandem bike with my uncle, and he's like, wow, like screaming. And like that was him. So that's so cool. Like he worked his butt off to relearn to walk and to talk again. Yes. And I mean, it was never the same as it was before, but just seeing that like grit.
Mm-hmm. So he was walking and talking and.
Yes. I mean, with a limp and with, it was hard, but he did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And that he had that time still after.
Yeah.
With you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. Okay, so not long after your dad passed away, you and David found yourselves in a whirlwind.
Yes,
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like I grew up in a conservative church culture. Mm-hmm. That was like a no-no.
Yep. And we were like the babies of the purity culture.
We were the babies of the purity culture. Uh-huh. Yeah. And some of my friends don't even understand what that could have possibly been like because they didn't live in that world. But I'm like, we were in it.
It was like contracts and rings and
all of the things.
Whole thing.
All of the things. Mm-hmm. But what I found really sweet about that time is that I found I was pregnant and everyone could like see, like my belly grew, like it was very evident. Mm-hmm. And so it actually became this time of like freedom. Like I have nothing to hide. Mm-hmm. Like this is what happened. This is who I am. Like I can ask and have God meet me exactly where I am. Nothing is hidden. And from later, maybe we'll talk about in our church story, there was a lot at the time happening in our church with other people that was very hidden. Mm-hmm. And God allowed me this thing that like I was able to invite him into exactly where I was.
Yep.
And that was actually a really, really freeing thing.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we were babies. I mean, we were babies. We were broke. He joined the military just so that we could have health insurance.
And you weren't married yet.
We weren't married. We got married. So we found out we were pregnant in January. Literally, we found out we got pregnant 2 weeks after my dad passed. And so we found out a month later. We got married in that May.
Okay.
And he left in June for basic training.
Okay.
So he actually Skyped the birth of our firstborn. From
I don't think I knew this.
Yeah, our first family photo is me holding up his face on the computer.
Ugh.
Which now going back is insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
I'm like, how are you holding yourself together right now? That's wild.
Yeah, and when I look back at that, I'm like, that is also God's grace because there is no way that I should have been able to do that. I mean, my mom was incredible and an incredible support. But now having gone through multiple births, and postpartum and all the things, I don't know how that even happened. But yeah, it was an absolute whirlwind of a year. And then our daughter Audrey was born that October.
The biggest, best blessing.
The best blessing. And what I felt like when I remember finding out, and I was shaking and I was terrified and I felt all of this shame. And now looking back saying she's the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me.
God gifted her to you.
Gifted. Yeah. 1000%. And, we decided at this time, we were going to put everything we had in with Jesus. We had lost my dad. We were broke. We were young parents. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing. I mean, my mom literally let us rent a house from her and she bought a different house because we couldn't afford a house that didn't smell like cat pee. My mom was
cigarette smoke.
Or cigarette smoke. Yeah.
Yes.
It was terrible. My husband, I remember him selling his banjo to pay our phone bill one time because we just that's just where we were at the season. But we just decided okay, we're going to put it all in with Jesus. And nothing shifted overnight. I mean, it was a long grind and a marathon, but he's been really, really faithful to provide for us and to show up in the middle of our marriage and our parenting, even though it was crazy.
Yeah. How do you feel you were supported obviously you said your mom was an amazing support, but growing up in the kind of culture that we grew up in, how did you feel supported by the church?
So I ended up in a small group of women that were remarkable.
That's amazing.
And they were all college age. None of them had kids at the time. I mean, Audrey became
the baby.
Our small group baby. She was our mascot. But they no questions asked, just loved me.
Yeah.
I never felt I had to explain myself. They threw me a bachelorette party in their college house that we joke, we're oh my, she's I cannot believe that's where we threw your bachelorette party. But I felt so loved and so seen because they just came right alongside me.
Yeah.
No questions asked. And then they loved my baby and they loved her she was their own.
I love that.
And so that was really, really special. And honestly, I cannot imagine getting through that season. And none of them were moms. We were all in college.
They were the fun aunties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they still are the fun aunties. And now they're having babies now that all my kids are older and they're good timing. Now they can babysit for me.
Right.
Yeah,
perfect.
Exactly.
Aww. Okay. So you shared a little bit with me about your postpartum anxiety and panic attacks that followed. What was going on inside during that time and how did God meet you in the middle of it? Because I feel it's actually more normal than not for new moms, young moms to be having postpartum anxiety or depression. And I feel we're getting to a point that it's talked about more.
Yeah.
But when I had my firstborn, you just didn't talk about it.
No, nobody talked about it.
You didn't talk about it. There wasn't support. There wasn't therapists that specialized in that. You had to talk to your doctor and take a test and then get paired with somebody who didn't even know how to deal with postpartum.
Yeah.
So for you, what was that season like?
Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, it was so hard. I remember I had my first panic attack when I went to a women's retreat in a full-blown panic attack in Dallas. And I was weaning my daughter from nursing. I didn't actually know that you could experience severe panic attacks while you're weaning, while you have this other hormonal change. And so I had some blues and some anxiety, but nothing like what was about to come. And so I actually ended up in the emergency room thinking like I was having like a heart attack. And then once you experience that, the fear that comes from that feeling and being afraid of feeling that feeling again. Just perpetuates more.
It just takes you over.
It just takes over, yeah. And so nobody, like I would tell people and they were just like, what are you talking about? And I just felt so broken. I remember sobbing on David's lap and him just like stroking the hair out of my face. And I was like, why am I so broken? I'm so sorry that you got someone that is so broken. And I met this woman at the park and she started explaining her panic attacks to me, and they were the exact same thing I'd walked through. And I think like I would go to doctors and they would say like maybe you have anxiety or whatever, and I like didn't even believe them because it felt so real what was happening in my body. And in the church at the time, I mean the church has come a long ways since that point. But I mean, I got some bad advice.
Oh yeah.
I got some like prayer from people that were like, you just need to have more faith. And if you had more faith, you wouldn't have
Pray
this
it
fear.
away.
Yeah. And really what I needed at the time was some sertraline. Like really what I needed was, yes, like obviously Jesus was in the middle of that, but I also figured out that he could use doctors and he could use therapists and he could use people that like could walk me towards a path of healing. And like he was definitely in the middle of that. But I mean, I started kind of sharing my journey and then realized how many people were walking through the exact same thing, but just nobody at the time talked about it. I mean, thank goodness it has come light years from like 13 years ago. But at the time, like literally it just felt like you had this like mark on you that you were broken. And I had honestly not a lot of hope for what the future could look like. I'm like, I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life.
And you don't know how to live with it.
Yeah, you have no idea. It's terrifying.
Like you're like, I don't want to. Like, how do I even live like this?
Yeah, and as someone who's like super outgoing and loves to be out, like I couldn't go to Target.
No.
Like there was certain kind of lights that would like set me off and trigger it.
Noises.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then you're trying to like soak up this baby that's beautiful and amazing. And I had pretty severe postpartum anxiety and panic attacks with my second born, Raleigh. And it just like robbed me of a lot of those like moments of like, I mean, it was like survival at the time, really survival. But so God met me through therapists and through medication and through people that were willing to like be gentle enough and not just like shove a quick verse down my throat and then walk away and leave me like, what do I do now?
Yeah. No, I struggled with postpartum depression, not anxiety or panic attacks. That came later on in life. But the postpartum, it was more just like I would have these stories playing in my head constantly of like, and it would be tragic, horrendous stories. Like I get a call from daycare or my mom who has my daughter and they got in a car accident. And like I would it was psychotic. Yeah. I would play this traumatic scene as if it was a movie in my brain from start to like the funeral. Yeah. And then I'm like, how did it was always when I was driving, which is scary. Yeah. Because I would get to where I was going and I'm like, I don't even remember getting here. Yeah. And then I'm bawling hysterically, panicking, calling my mom, like, is she okay? You know, like, you're like, is this intuition? Am I psycho? Like, what is happening? Yeah. That's what I struggled with postpartum. And sertraline did help me with that as well.
And it's so real. It's so real. And I mean,
it doesn't work for everybody.
It doesn't work for everyone. I'm not saying it's like a cure-all. And I've found like throughout the years that there are, you know, other things that have helped me with anxiety, not in that like, you know, pretty severe things like exercise and like food and things and supplements that help me. But at the time, that is what my body needed. And
And there wasn't information about the more holistic approaches either, like ashwagandha, L-theanine, GABA. Those weren't things that were talked about then. Like that wasn't even on the radar. So it kind of was like there was the spiritual, like pray it out.
Yeah. And I did that.
I mean, you do, but it's like, I need something more. Yeah. And so, sertraline was a huge help. I only needed it for my first and third. My second baby, for whatever reason, I call her my magic baby because it was magic. Like I just felt so joyful and good afterwards. I'm like, how is it so different?
Yeah. And our bodies are so complex and it is so wild, and hormones are actually insane. But yeah, it's just, I mean, there's no like one like size fits all for any of these things. And like, don't get me wrong, like prayer. I mean, I think I got closer to Jesus during that time because I was literally so desperate every second. Like I literally needed peace every single second. And like he showed up with, like we talked about, community, like through people that would come and bring me to Target so I could get what I needed to get. Cause at the time there was no Instacart. There's you go to the store or you have nothing.
Or yes, you literally have no groceries.
Yeah. So you still had to like do those things. But yeah, that was a very hard season.
Yeah. When you talk about panic and anxiety, there is nothing worse. Like I experienced it for the first, I thought I had anxiety before until like I actually had anxiety when I was 38. And that is when sertraline did not work for me.
Yeah.
It actually made it worse. I went into psychosis
on
it. It was horrible. But that is when that's when you're in that season and when you're feeling like you don't know how you're going to survive it and you have no other option but to cry out to God.
Yeah.
Like to literally fall on your face and be like, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to live like this.
Yeah.
The only way I can really describe it, I tell people, I'm like, because I don't think, unless you've experienced it, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's like I thought I did. Like my mom, she had struggled with anxiety and I'd be like, oh, Mom, read this self-help book. Do a gratitude journal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
the gratitude journal. Everything comes back to the gratitude journal.
I would be like, Mom, come on, it's your mindset. You just got to change your mindset.
Yeah.
Until I experienced it. And then I'm like, oh my God, Mom, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
I had no idea what this was.
Yeah.
Because you literally like I would say God is what healed me and brought me through it.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy fix.
No, and you become paralyzed by fear. Like, and I think the fear, I don't know if you experienced this, but the fear of experiencing that thing again is so overpowering. And then it kind of triggers you into the same episode. And so, yeah, it's a lot. One of my best friends called me because she did the same thing. She was like, here's a gratitude journal. And then she walked through it and had it for the first time. And she called me. She was like, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. She's like, I didn't know that's what that was like. And it's terrible.
It is. You are running from it. You literally feel like you can feel it on your back. Like it's so close.
Yeah.
And you can start and you're like, nope, we're not doing this today. Like, and you just run. But what I have learned through lots of therapy and taking courses and learning how to actually deal with this beast of anxiety is you have to sit in it. Yeah. You have to actually like experience it, feel it. Don't try to like suppress it and push it away, because the more you do that, when you do it, the bigger it becomes. Yeah. So it is wild, but oh God, praise God for God. Seriously. And for worship music, like I would just like pipe it through my house. I couldn't listen to anything else. Nothing else. Like I needed like, and that was during that season, like even there was times I didn't have the words to pray because I was like so lost in the middle of my fear. Yeah. And so I would just like have scripture read over me and have worship sung over my house. And I was like, these are my cries. Like my actual cry and my like groan is my prayer, because that's all that I had to offer at the time. And honestly, that is, I would say, the biggest tool when you're experiencing that and going through that is turn off the TV. Yeah. Delete all your social media apps. Yep. Literally put on Spotify, Elevation Worship, any kind of worship that you want to listen to or that you like, and just consume that only. Yeah. I think that's where I discovered Elevation Worship, which is really now my favorite. It's amazing. I love Elevation. They're coming to the city. I know. I'm going. Are you going? Yes. It's so good. I want to take my girls so bad. We're still trying to figure it out. But okay. So you talk about that moment at the park when that other mom was very vulnerable with you. So was she, did she help you or did you help her? Or did you guys help each other? She helped me. Okay. Yeah, she had actually written up like a blog about her experience with postpartum panic attacks. And so she started sharing, and it was like this moment of like, oh wait, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe maybe I'm going to be okay. And maybe there is healing on the other side of this. Yeah. Did you experience any kind of panic or anxiety in your childhood at all, or not really? No, but I think a lot of mine is triggered by my dad's brain cancer. Yeah. So it was like anytime there was any shift, I felt like
something must be terribly wrong in my
Yes.
body.
Yeah.
And that they're going to find something. And then
Yes.
now I'm going to leave this baby, or I'm going to, you know. So like as I kind of worked with a therapist going back to like, where does this all stem from? A lot of it came back to that. You know, my dad first like had a little bit of a tremble in his hand. And so anytime I had any change in my body, I just like went back to like, this must be what is happening.
That's what triggered mine was my stepdad having his double lung and liver transplant and it not going the way. And it's like facing death.
Yeah.
I feel like that traumatic when you have that loved person where you face death.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it just shakes your whole world. And then, it's like, okay, I'm shaking. Is this anxiety or am I dying?
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's like every little thing.
Yeah.
You're constantly just measuring what's happening. And you're like, oh, I have a little headache. Oh, I hope I'm not getting sick. Like I had massive fear of sickness.
Yeah.
Colds even.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was COVID. I think that screwed us all up a ton too.
It did.
Because it took me years of therapy to try to like move past like, okay, I can have a cold and it's fine.
Yeah.
My kids can be sick. It's fine. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
But you just go to that worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard. So how did sharing your story, first in small ways, then online, because you are open about your story, you share with others. You used to blog a lot, correct?
Yeah.
Are you blogging now?
I mean, I do. We have 5 kids, and so
it's kind of like gets sprinkled in when you can.
Yeah, I sharing and writing is like absolutely my passion and my joy, but it's like I keep being like, all right, God, you know the desires of my heart, and right now in this season, I am like trying to fully be present as a mom and sneak it in when I can.
Yes. And
in the margins.
You know what? That's better than nothing.
Exactly.
And I think that you have your priorities straight. That's a good thing. So how did sharing your story, first in small ways then online, change how you experience both motherhood and faith?
Yeah. I think for me, writing like is my way of processing. And so I would like type things out and then it would be like, okay, is that actually what I feel? Or is that actually truth? And so like literally as I was typing and as I was deleting and then rewriting, it was almost like I was rewriting my own story. Not because what I experienced wasn't true, but because I had to like process it through with myself and with God to be like, what is actually true?
Yeah.
And so as I, and people do this through journaling, whether they share it online or they don't. But like just getting it all on paper and being like, okay, this is what I'm reading back to myself. And that doesn't actually sound like God's heart. That doesn't actually sound like the goodness that he has for me. And so it allowed me to kind of go back in and see. And so even like in my journey with motherhood, those years that are so, they're all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
And so as I like wrote about those years, I was like, I can write this out in a way that's like, this is just hard. This is just isolating. This is just lonely. Or I can begin to look and like almost go on the scavenger hunt for where is there wonder here? I mean, my floors were covered with mac and cheese and Cheerios for so many years. Like the stepping on a piece of macaroni is the worst. Like it just, the way it sticks to your foot.
Between the toes.
Yeah. But like that was just the season I was in for so long. So I'm like, if I do not find wonder and joy here and sharing about and sharing through that journey and just help me like kind of rewrite that season and say, all right, I'm gonna look for where heaven is breaking through right here and right now, because I can't jump forward to a different season. The only thing that I have is right now.
Yes.
And so if I don't find it here, I'm not going to find it at all.
Right. And hindsight's always 20/20, right? Like you hear your parents and grandparents say like, oh, the time just flies by, and you don't believe it in that season.
No.
But now you look back, you're kind of still in that season because you've got littles.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm flying through it.
Like because now you have is she 14 now?
She'll be 13.
13. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
So all of a sudden you're like, wait, everything they said was true.
It's true. They weren't lying. Like it really is such a true statement of like really slow down and enjoy those moments because they're fleeting.
They are.
They are so fleeting. All right. I want to go to the whole church hurt and healing.
Yeah.
This is something we've experienced together.
Yeah.
Something you and I share is walking through church hurt. That's a hard layer to process because it comes from people you've trusted. What was that season like for you?
Yeah, it was, as you can probably attest to, it was super heavy because it's people that you love, it's people that you care about, and it's like everything that you thought was true. Not everything. I'll have to say this, like I can still see the beauty and the goodness that God brought me through that church and through that season, even while there was a bunch of stuff happening that was really painful and hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was terrible. And through it, I think I could have lost faith in church completely.
Oh yeah, easy.
But the closer I looked at the person of Jesus, the more I fell in love with him and who he was and who his character was. And it was such a stark difference from what I was experiencing and what I was watching unfold in the church. And so I had to shift my focus onto who he was and the person that he was. And the more I looked at him, the more attractive Christianity, the more attractive my faith was to me, the more I longed to experience that. And it just was such a contrast to what I was watching actually play out. So it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because I got to experience some of the good of that, but people watching from the outside are just this looks nothing like Christ, people say I love Jesus, but I do not like his Christians because they look nothing like him.
Yeah.
And we did experience that. We experienced something that it was someone that was in power that we were supposed to be able to trust, that was supposed to lead us. And we were, disgustingly let down.
Yeah. And over and over again.
Over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. It is so heartbreaking. And for me, the hardest part, because I thought that I handled it good. I thought that it didn't cause too much trauma. I'm good, until things later on in life, things creep up and you're like, oh, I thought I handled that.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it's kind of something I still deal with today.
Yeah.
And there'll be things that are said that I'm like, ugh. Then your trust starts to waver a bit. And I'm like, this is not the same situation. I'm in a different place. I have a different church family. It's different. But I do feel like it is also an awareness. We can't put all of our hope in a human person.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's one thing that growing up in the church, it's you didn't idolize your pastor by any means, but you do hold them to a different standard, and as you should.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're human.
Yeah.
And you can't just get all of your insight from that one person. You have to have your own relationship with Jesus Christ. It can't be what you're being fed by other people.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
and my mark of a leader now has changed drastically.
Same.
Charisma is fabulous, but if you don't have the character to back that up, if you don't allow people to question you, and to have there be checks and balances, there's not going to be trust there. And I think that is a very healthy thing that we can walk away from that season with. I mean, I'm very protective of my kids. They're not just going off with anyone and doing anything, And even in a church, which we thought was the safest place you could be.
Yeah.
And so there are things from that season, but especially the mark of a good leader. I mean, back, and I think a lot in the Christian culture, if you have charisma and, people just are drawn to you, and then people just don't ask questions. And there has to be checks and balances.
There has to be. And they can't just be your buddies.
Yeah.
There has to be actual people holding you accountable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Another thing that broke my heart in that whole season wasn't even so much what happened to me. It's for the ones who are new.
Yeah.
Who are just starting their relationship with God.
Yeah.
And then seeing that all happen.
Yeah.
And then just repelling them.
Yeah.
Away from not even community within a church, but from Jesus.
Yeah. And I've seen some stories that there are a select group of people that handled it really well and who really pursued after God's heart and really fought for justice. And they actually have stories of people saying I was hearing all this negative stuff, and yet I came and I saw how you were supporting the victims and supporting this. And this is actually drawing me towards I want to know the God that you know, because I want to fight for people the way that you fight for people. And so there are, some of those things. There's a lot of stories of people just falling away from their faith. And and I get it. It's hard and it's really messy. And like I said, I just have to go back to the person of Jesus, and whether I have a church home and community here. I mean, my faith is in Christ alone and not in people or in a building or in a church or in a congregation.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you learn to separate the failures of people from the character of God?
I mean, through the hard way, like we did. Like we were devastated.
It's like being put to the fire. Like you have no choice.
Yeah, there was no choice. Yeah, it was either that I was going to abandon my faith altogether. But like I said earlier, like I walking through my dad's brain cancer diagnosis and his death, like I had experience to fall back on. I had, found this anchor, this solid ground that I could stand on. And, walking through my dad's death was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. And yet I found that he was still faithful. And so I think I had that to fall back on a little bit of knowing, going through a stormy season and yet knowing that God is faithful and he's redemptive. And so I was able to fall back on that and say like, oh, it's different and yet it feels the same. Like I'm feeling heartache, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling like everything is like swirling, and I could kind of go back in that season, I was able to hold on to this anchor and I'll do it again. Yeah.
Do you feel like you have better discernment now?
I don't know. Like I hope, but the world's super loud, and God's voice is so still and tender. And so it can be really challenging. I think even now, like I would like to say, yes, I do, but I'm human. Right. And so it takes me a lot to have to be like, I need to quiet down because the world is so loud. I need to shut things off because it is so easy for me to just get swept up in the shuffle of life and having 5 kids and sports and all these things that I miss his voice.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss his voice, but I do,
Yeah.
And so I think right now it's like, I would love to just be like, yes, I have way better discernment, but it's harder in this season more than ever before to quiet everything down just because life is busy.
Yeah.
And to hear his voice.
I feel like discernment is actually, it's more of an active thing we have to do now, at least for me with the trauma attached.
Yeah.
Because I used to feel like discernment was easy, but now when I hear something, if I feel like it's discernment, I'm like, or is this trauma response?
Yeah.
So then I have to quiet. I'm like, okay, now I just need to meditate with God.
Yeah.
Like I need to quiet my mind, like shut everything off and just try to hear him directly, to hear if this is him or is this me?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Because of the trauma.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's helped me a lot is to say like, okay, does this look like the fruit of the Spirit? And that's kind of like my indicator. Like, I'm like, does this look like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness? Like I have to go back to that because there are so many voices and so many things. And I'm like, I have to go back to like, is this producing good fruit?
Correct.
In me and the people around me.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then I need to like go back and figure out what is happening here.
Yeah. I would say that's one of the biggest things for me that I have experienced and learned through the church hurt and the trauma and whatever you want to call it is the discernment piece of like, now that there is that PTSD or whatever, it's kind of like, what is it? Yeah. Okay, so looking back at all of the seasons, grief, anxiety, adoption, which we didn't get to talk about today, but you did adopt a beautiful baby girl. Say a little bit about her.
Yeah, so we adopted through foster care. It was a big circle to get there, but we were adopting through the country of Uganda, and that they shut their borders to adoption. And so our really good friend was like, are you for all orphans or just international orphans? I'm like, why would you ever say that?
Like, ouch.
I'm like, she's like, because there's a really big need for foster families. And like, we could never unhear what we heard.
Yeah.
Long story short, that led us to our daughter who, we fought for reunification with her biological mom. That wasn't able to happen. And so now she is forever a part of our family and the best thing ever. Yeah. And, but yeah, sorry, that's just a short saga of her little life.
Yes. But looking back at all of these seasons, the church hurt, the anxiety, adoption, grief, what's the thread of God's faithfulness you see running through it all?
Yeah, I would just say that he really is as good as his word says that he is. Like I can pull that thread and I can see even like the times that like I experienced rejection, like he has like, there's been this thread of his protection and his hand over my life. And so even the things that at the time felt terrible, like even my dad's death, he has used for my good and for his glory. And so when you pull on that thread, even at the time when, though it might have hurt or might have felt painful, I can see those ripples of his goodness and the way that he like held me and that he carried me, and that even those times of where the miracle didn't happen, you know, where I did have panic attacks, you know, it wasn't just like they didn't go away overnight, where I, you know, experienced friends' rejection, where we walked through the heartache of the foster care roller coaster. I can pull on that thread of like, this is who I believe God is. And I can see the ripples of like, yeah, he sustained me. Yeah, he showed up. Yeah, he protected me. And it's because he actually had better for me than I could have ever dreamt for myself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like hunky-dory, my dad's not alive, you know, like that's putting, that thread is pulling to like the hope of heaven. And that's beyond anything that, you know, we'll ever experience here, but it's still good.
Yeah. And it's like that pain is power, right? It's like, that's our story. That's where God really shows up and you get to see his faithfulness. Yeah. And without pain, would we even really know God's heart as much as we do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So if someone's listening in and is in the thick of grief, or maybe walking through church hurt right now, what encouragement would you want to speak into their heart?
I would just say that your story is not over. I would say your story is not over, and that there was times where I felt hopeless. I felt like, how could God ever use the season? And he did, and he does. And I would just say to find someone that is safe, that can come alongside you, because community is vital. And in every season, one of those threads that he used was just people coming alongside me and like kind of refixing my gaze back at who God was when I forgot. And so I would say, don't go at it alone, and that this isn't the end, that there is still hope and goodness for you. And as someone who's, you know, walked through it and walked through the trenches, and will walk through hard things to come, right? I would just remind them that they're not alone.
Right. And then what's one scripture or truth that grounds you today that you keep coming back to?
So in James, which was my dad's life verse, where it talks about how consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you encounter suffering. That was my dad's life verse, which I'm like, you could have picked a different one, Dad. But it talks about how your pain and your suffering actually refines you and how it actually helps you to look more like Jesus. And so that I still come back to, because I'm like it could swallow you up, or it can actually be the fire that refines you and makes you into someone who can show up better and look more like the person of Jesus. And so, I was like, Dad, you could have picked something that was a little more lighthearted. A little lighthearted, but it did serve him well.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you, Anna, for sharing your heart so openly today. I know our stories overlap in so many ways, and it's always such a gift to sit across from a friend who gets it. The hard parts, the holy parts, and the ways God shows up in the middle. For those of you listening, I hope this conversation reminded you that you don't have to have it all figured out. Church hurt, grief, anxiety, motherhood, none of it disqualifies you from God's presence or his love. In fact, he meets us right there in the raw and the real. So wherever you are today, I pray you feel encouraged to lean in closer to him, because even when people disappoint us, even when life unravels, he never does. Thanks for tuning in, friend. Until next time, keep holding on to Jesus. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your time is valuable, and I'm honored you spent it here. I hope something in this conversation met you right where you are. If it stirred something in your spirit or spoke to your heart, I'd truly love to hear about it. My DMs are always open. I love connecting with you. And as you go, just remember, you're not walking through this life alone. Until next time, stay grounded, keep showing up, and keep leaning into the purpose that's been placed on your heart. I'll be right here, cheering you on with my whole heart.